So let's discuss the approaches of selecting the capital structure. Now, you guys know some of the basic terms. You know that capital structure means mix of different sources of funds used in the capital structure of the company in various proportions. So when you're deciding, when you have to choose whether to go for loan, whether to go for bank loan, or whether to take the same loan from a financial institution, or whether to go for equity shares, whether to go for preference shares, or whether to use the existing reserves, or whether to go for a venture capitalist. So you have so much of choice as a company which is available at your disposal. And there are so many instruments that are available which can be issued in the financial market and funds can be procured. Now you can borrow funds not just from Indian market, but you can also procure funds from foreign markets. So that option is also possible. You can procure funds not just in Indian currency, but you can also procure funds in the currency what you want. So there are given that there are so many choices, so many options that are available to procure funds. Uh, an organization has to do a careful evaluation when it is deciding from where to procure the fund and what should be the mix or the combination in terms of proportion which shall be used in the capital structure of the company. So in order to do this, you have some techniques or also known as approaches which you can use. The first one being EBIT and EPS approach. The second one, cost and risk approach. The third one is called cash flow approach. And we also have capital structure theories. So we have so many capital structure theories, and these theories provides you some sort of an idea, a concept which you can borrow, which you can use to decide what should be your capital structure. So we shall go through these approaches one by one. To begin with, EBIT and EPS approach. So this EBIT EBS approach is based on a principle that a firm should select a particular source of a fund. A firm should construct the capital structure in such a way that the outcome of capital structure should be maximization of earnings per share for the equity shareholders. So your capital structure should benefit the equity shareholders. So when we say benefit equity shareholder, it means earnings per share. So any capital structure which is capable of producing higher earning per share, that capital structure is considered to be an ideal capital structure according to this EBIT and EPS approach, right? So this approach focuses on providing best possible return to the equity shareholders who are perceived to be the owners of the company. So the entire approach is not from the perspective of company, it is from the perspective of the equity shareholders. Now, since the entire approach is based on EPS, earnings per share, now you should learn how do we calculate earning per share, because without learning how to calculate earning per share, you will not be able to decide, you will not be able to compute EPS, because the selection is based on EPS. So therefore you have to learn how to compute EPS. Now in order to compute EPS, you have to follow these steps which you guys are a little familiar with. So the first one, the first thing what you have to take is the sales. Sales is the revenue which the organization generates by trading, by manufacturing, right, through various economic activities. So from sales, you should deduct all your expenses. So when we say expense here, these expenses are split into variable cost and fixed cost. So this is what you're supposed to do. You have to minus both variable cost and fixed cost. But you're not doing this as one component, but you're splitting this. So what happens here is first you write down the sales. From sales, you minus fixed cost. and then you get something called as contribution. So from contribution, you should deduct variable cost, and the end result of this is called operating profits. Now this operating profits, the other name for this is EBIT. Sometimes it is also referred as PBIT, earnings before interest and tax, or profits before interest or tax. So you can either use any one of these terminologies. Either you can call this as EBIT or PBIT. Now, the question that needs to be asked here is, why are we not deducting the expenses component in one shot? Why are we showing the breakup? Why are we splitting the entire expenses into fixed cost and variable cost? Why not deduct everything at once? What's the logic behind this? What's the logic behind showing two separate components? What's the reason behind this? In fact, first we have to deduct fixed cost and then we have to deduct variable cost. So why are we doing this?
So it's just a guess. So fixed cost is something that is already fixed every year, that keeps occurring. So it is better to show them that every month this is the expense that is occurring, or yearly expenses are occurring. So these are fixed. Variable cost is something that keeps on changing. So you have to show them what are the expense that are changing over a period of time.
Okay. Okay, that's fair enough. What is a major challenge for any organization? Is it managing variable cost or is it managing fixed cost? Which seems to be quite challenging according to you.
So variable cost.
Managing fixed
Variable
cost.
cost is a problem, and
Yeah.
why?
So I think the reason why variable cost can be a problem is it is totally unseen. We don't know what kind of a sudden expenditure can come in suddenly. Like simple, if I have to take it and if I have to relate it to my personal life, if I have to just say, so I don't know suddenly anybody's health can fall sick. I mean anybody in my family can fall sick. It's totally unseen, and I don't know what will be the hospital bill that's going to come. So, am I really prepared to go ahead and pay that hospital bill? So, that is why I feel, the same thing happens with the organization also. Are they even prepared to handle that kind of a sudden expense that's coming in?
Okay. Any other student or anybody else in the team who want to give your perspective? Which is more challenging, fixed or variable cost?
It's a fixed cost too sometimes, because sometimes due to market fluctuations the cost may vary. Like if the inflation rate or something affects the business or a market, then even the fixed cost can change. For that the business has to give explanation for the investors why the fixed cost has been changed. So even maintaining a fixed cost is a challenge for the business.
Okay. Okay. Okay, fine. Now, I'll first tell you the concept, and then probably you guys can come to a conclusion which is more challenging, variable cost or fixed cost. Let's say you guys you own India's largest multiplex chain, PVR, right? PVR has highest number of screens in India and they are the market leader. And now you guys know that most of the cinema theaters have somehow started their operations with all the challenges what they have in front of them. So for a cinema theater, what's the challenge? The challenge is that there are certain expenses which is quite difficult to manage. Let's say AC, lighting, projection, okay, staff salary. Now these are some of the expenses which a cinema theater has to incur. And of course, then they also have the print cost or the cost of showing the picture inside the cinema hall. Right? So these are some of their indicative expenses. Now, assume that a cinema theater has a capacity of 350 audience, 350 people can be seated inside the hall. And out of these 350 people, early morning show or the morning show, there are hardly some 30 students. Usually morning shows are quite popular among students. So 30 audiences have come. But what happens in the matinee, you have slightly a bigger number, 150 audiences have come. But what about the evening show? Evening show, 300. And the late night show, complete auditorium is full. Now the challenge here is for a business like cinema theater, whether it is 30 audience or even for that matter, whether it is 10 audience, this has to go on. Since there are only 10 people, can I switch off the AC? Can I compromise on the lighting and the ambience of the theater? The projection cost, the lighting cost, the AC cost, the cost of showing the cinema for which the cinema theater owner pays to the distributor will remain same. But what seems to be a problematic component is the staff salary. Now, staff salary might not be that challenging because when you have more people, right, I can make this flexible. Well, let's say in the morning, I might just need one staff. But let's say in the evening, I might need 5 staff. So I can keep this little flexible because only if I have more audience, I need more people. So for morning show, I'll ask only one guy to come and do the work. But for late night show, I need 5 people. So I'll employ 5 people. So this seems to be a non-problematic component for me because as the demand increases, I will also increase the resources. But here I can't do anything because whether the demand is less, whether the demand is more, these are my resources which will be used. So this seems to be a great challenge for the organization, not just for PVR, for any organization for that matter. Fixed cost is always a challenge because if you want to overcome your fixed cost, you have to ensure that you generate sufficient sales. If the sales, if the sales is less than fixed cost, it's a problem. But if the sales is more than fixed cost, then it's a happy situation for the organization, right? So there's no issue. So that's the reason what we do is while preparing an income statement, we are not bothered about the variable cost at all because variable cost comes into picture only if the demand is more. Demand is lesser the variable cost. There is no absolutely no demand itself, then I might not need this staff only. Right, imagine even if there are 5 people in cinema theater also, I still need light, AC, projection and print distribution cost, right? But that's not the case in case of staff. The more number of staff, the more the demand, the more the staff. Similarly, same thing with electricity. What about electricity? The answer is electricity will still become the component of fixed cost because whether to have 30 audience or 10 audience or 350 audience, the same amount of electricity will be consumed. So what seems to be a challenge for any organization for that matter is the fixed cost, because if they are not able to recover the fixed cost from the sales, what they are doing, it's a loss for them. It's a loss for them, right? So this in other language is called, in financial language, this is called business risk. Or in financial language, it is called operating risk, which is represented by operating leverage. You guys have studied, right, leverages in your BCom. Financial leverage, operating leverage, combined leverage. Unfortunately, you people remember only the formulas. Operating leverage means C divided by EBIT. Financial leverage means EBIT divided by EBT, but you don't know what it is and what exactly the concept is. So that should not be the way you learn. Whenever you learn a concept, you have to see how practically it is applicable. So imagine I'm PVR, morning show. I have collected my collection from this 30 audience who have come is hardly 3,000 rupees. considering that each cost of each ticket is hardly 100 rupees for morning shows. But unfortunately, to run this AC, to have the ambience properly in place inside the auditorium, right? When we say ambience, it includes here everything: cleanliness, fragrance, right? All these are very important components of an auditorium. Uh, the seating arrangements, right? The projection system, the sound system, all this is fixed. Let's say for this to run one show, it is costing me 10,000 rupees. So what is this called now? This is called business risk. So that's the reason fixed cost is always a headache for any organization, because whether the operations are in process or whether the operations are not in process, whether the scale of operation is very high, whether the scale of operations are low, fixed cost remains to be the same. Fixed cost remains to be the same. Perhaps we can also include the rent, lease rent, what PVR pays for most of the shopping malls, right? So that therefore we always say fixed cost is dangerous, because if you're not able to manage your fixed cost, then you are subject to business risk, in which you're in a situation wherein you don't have sufficient sales to recover your fixed cost. So in order to understand the component of fixed cost, what we do is we first eliminate the variable cost, because variable cost is not at all a concern for me. Only if my operations are going on, only if the operations are going on, only then I incur variable cost. So I'm not bothered. If I'm having high demand, I'm willing to spend more on variable cost. If I have low demand, hardly there is any variable cost. So therefore, what we have to do is we have to first eliminate the variable cost. So once we eliminate variable cost, it becomes contribution. So instead of using, what we do is instead of using the word sales, we now have to replace the word sales here with contribution. So if the contribution is greater than fixed cost, then the company is facing, if the contribution is greater than fixed cost, the company is not facing any business risk. But if the contribution is less than fixed cost, then the company is facing business risk. This is called business risk. So instead of using the word sales, use the word contribution. What's the difference between sales and contribution is that sales does not involves any deduction, whereas contribution is after deducting your variable cost. So are you clear now? If you have any questions, if you have any doubt, go ahead and ask me. Are you clear? Why do we show variable cost separately and fixed cost separately? What's the logic behind it? Are you guys clear now? Okay. So since there is no response, I assume that you guys have understood the concept. That's a positive assumption. So now let's continue with our format for calculating EPS, also known as income statement. In accounts, you guys prepare profit and loss account, but from the perspective of finance, the same profit and loss account what you guys prepare is converted into an income statement. And this is the format of income statement. So first we record sales. From sales, we deduct variable cost. So this will give us contribution. So what is the contribution after incorporating variable cost? From this we deduct fixed cost. And the outcome of this is called operating profit.
So,
Now this,
sorry,
yeah.
previously you gave us the other way around. You said sales minus the variable cost, then that's the contribution minus the variable cost.
No. First, you have to deduct the variable cost.
Okay.
Then this. I think previously I had written opposite there, which I changed it.
Okay.
Previously, I had written fixed cost here, and then I had actually written variable cost here.
Okay.
So I changed this.
So the first is variable cost, then comes the fixed cost.
You're absolutely right, because variable cost, the reason why we eliminate variable cost first, because variable cost is not a cause of concern, because variable cost is flexible. Variable cost is straight away aligned with demand. More the demand, more the variable cost. Lesser the demand, lesser the variable cost. There is no demand, there is no variable cost. But it's not the case with fixed cost. Fixed cost continues to remain the same irrespective of the demand. So therefore, in order to absorb fixed cost, in order to cope up with the higher fixed cost, you have to ensure that you are generating sufficient sales volume, or you have to ensure that somehow you're working on your fixed cost, which is quite difficult for any organization. And that's the reason we say that if contribution is greater than fixed cost, if contribution is greater than fixed cost, then it's a good situation. That means there's no risk, no business risk. But unfortunately, if contribution is lesser than fixed cost, then this is called business risk. That means you don't have sufficient, in other language, you don't have sufficient sales to manage your fixed costs. And how will you run your business? In that case, again, you have to borrow loans to meet your cost. Again, if you borrow a loan, again, the cost will go up. So therefore, this is the challenge at the moment, which all the businesses are facing at the moment. On account of COVID, hardly there is any sale. Sales have been hit tremendously, but fixed cost continues to be the problem. And that's one of the reasons why some of the organizations are implementing certain measures to target the fixed cost, right? For some, for example, for colleges and schools, salary of teacher remains a fixed cost, because whether there is a class, whether there is no class, whether there are admissions or whether there are no admissions, whether it's a summer holiday or whether the classes are going on, teachers have to be paid. And that's why some of the educational institutions are trying to reduce the salary of teachers or decrease their salary or paying only half the salary, because at the end of the day, organization also has to manage its fixed cost. Right, and they're not able to manage the fixed cost. Why? Because sales revenue is hit. Students are not paying fees, or students have paid only part fees. Right. So that's the reason managing this fixed cost is a greater challenge in any organization. And an organization which is able to manage its fixed cost becomes quite successful. They will not have this so-called business risk. Right. So first, eliminate the variable cost, because variable cost is not a cause of concern. And then once you deduct variable cost, the outcome of this is called contribution. So that's the reason. First I said compare sales. Then I said instead of sales, use contribution. Contribution is nothing but the sales revenue after deducting or after incorporating your variable cost. So this is part one to find out EBIT. Sometimes EBIT or the operating profit is already given in the question. In case if it is already given in the question, then you don't have to do these steps. You can start from EBIT. So from this, what you do is you deduct interest. Now, once you deduct interest, what it is called? Profit before tax. From this, you deduct tax. Now, this is called profit after tax. Now, once you eliminate profit, once you eliminate tax, you get profit after tax. Next is to pay preference dividend to preference shareholders. Once you do this, the final outcome is called earnings available to equity shareholders. Now we calculate EPS. EPS is equal to earnings available to equity shareholders divided by number of shares, you get EPS. So this is how we come to conclusion. So whenever we are deciding capital structure, let's say we have different plans, or let's say we have different option. Option number one, to go for 100% equity. Okay, this is our plan one. Plan two is to go for 50% equity and 50% loan. Okay, plan 3 is to go for 25% equity, 25% loan, and 50% preference shares. So these are our 3 plans. Now, which plan should we choose? Which is a better plan? On what basis do we decide? We decide on the basis of EPS. So whichever plan offers a higher EPS, earnings per share, is perceived to be the best combination for capital structure. So this is the basis of determining or choosing the capital structure under this approach called EBIT and EPS approach, which to some extent you guys are quite familiar with because you have done questions like this in the past also in your graduation. So do you have any questions on this format? EBIT, EPS. Do you have any questions on how to calculate EBIT and EPS? So if you do not have any questions, then probably you guys can write down this format. I mentioned that you need to have a separate notebook. So in your notebook, you write chapter 1, designing capital structure. Once you have written this, the first topic is called approaches for selecting capital structure. Approaches for selecting capital structure. Under this, the first approach is EBIT and EPS approach. EBIT and EPS approach. Now, once you guys have written EBIT and EPS approach, write down this income statement. So just write the heading, format of income statement. Don't have to write this. Just write general income statement format. Okay, next, let's see a typical question on EBIT and EPS approach, and try to solve a couple of numerical questions. I'll be sharing the questions with you people. Every time we do a numerical problem, probably one day before or during that class, I'll be sharing the question with you people so that you don't have to write down the question in your notebook. So question soft copy, I'll be sharing with you. Okay, so this is how a typical question would appear on selecting capital structure based on EBIT and EPS approach. So whenever you get a question on this concept, first thing you have to figure out is that whether the company is already an established company or whether it's a company which is about to start its business operation. So this is the first thing you have to do. You have to figure out whether this is a company which is starting its business operations for the first time, or is this a company which has already started and needs further capital for expansion. So that's the first thing which you people have to figure out, whether it's an existing company or whether it's a company which is about to start. So in our case here, it says that Columbia Corporation Limited is engaged in real estate business and currently has an equity share capital of 10 lakhs, which is subdivided into 1 lakh equity shares of 10 each. This sentence tells us that this is already an existing company which is doing its business. And for its existing business, what is its capital structure? Its capital structure at the moment. So what is its existing capital structure? Write down. Existing capital structure. It already has 10 lakhs. Okay. And what this is made up of? This is made up of equity. Now the company is going through a major expansion plan requiring to raise funds to the tune of 6 lakh rupees. So what is the additional capital required for the purpose of expansion? In order to expand its business operations, it needs an additional capital of 6 lakh rupees. That means now the company has to arrange another 6 lakh rupees. So this 6 lakh rupees, how the company will arrange, from where? So you should help the company decide how do we arrange this 6 lakh, for which the company's financial team has identified 4 options. In order to get the 6 lakhs, there are 4 options, or there are 4 plans. Plan number 1 is to procure this money only through equity shares. So in plan 1, there is only equity. In plan 2, there is a combination of 2 sources. 40,000. So this year, entire 6 lakh rupees will be through equity. Here, it's a combination of both equity as well as long-term borrowing. So equity will be 40,000 shares into 10 rupees, 4 lakhs. And loan will be the remaining 2 lakhs. So this is plan number 2. Plan number 3, equity 30,000 into 10, 3 lakh is equity. And the remaining 3,000 debentures of 100 each. So 3,000 into 100, again you get 3 lakh rupees there. So 3 lakh rupees is through debentures. So the company will get what it is required, which is 6 lakh. Plan number 4, 30,000 equity shares of 10 each and the balance through preference shares. So here 3 lakhs equity plus 3 lakhs preference. So total 6 lakh. So these are the 4 plans. So in each plan, there is a different mix of sources of funds. So which plan should the company go for? The decision should be taken on the basis of EPS. So whichever plan offers higher earnings per share, that plan should be selected. The entire EBIT EPS approach is purely based on shareholders' point of view, because this approach wants the shareholders to be benefited. Now, how the shareholders will get benefited according to this approach? Whatever is left out after meeting all the expenses belongs to the shareholders. So whichever option gives higher profits or higher EPS shall be selected. So this is from the viewpoint of shareholders. This is not from the viewpoint of company, because I told you from the viewpoint of company, we have to deploy the concept of optimal capital structure. What is optimal capital structure? Any capital structure that has minimum risk and minimum cost is called optimal capital structure. So that approach we use in the second one. I told you second, we all have different approaches. Cost and risk approach follows the concept of optimal capital approach, optimal capital structure approach. But this EBIT EPS is not from the viewpoint of how the company will get benefited. It is from the viewpoint of as to how shareholders will get benefited. So that's the difference between these two approaches, that cost and risk focuses from the perspective of company, whereas EBIT EPS approaches focuses from the perspective of shareholders. So since we do not have sufficient time to solve this, we will solve this question in the next class. But remember, whenever you get a question on EBIT EPS approach, first thing you have to figure out is whether the company already has an existing capital or whether it's a newly established organization. The reason why we have to figure this out is because when we calculate EPS, for a simple reason, we have to calculate EPS for both existing shareholders as well as additional shareholders or additional capital, right? So the distribution of profit should be done for both. The expenses should be accounted for both. For example, let's say the company's existing capital in this case has only equity. What if it also has debt? That means we have to pay old debenture holders also. Then in case if we are going for, let's say, option number 3, we have to pay for new debenture holders also. So in order to keep that point in mind that you have to pay for the existing guys also, you should first figure out whether the company already has existing capital or not. So this is what your EBIT and EPS approach is all about. So we will do these, we will solve this probably in the next class. So if you people have any questions on EPS and EBIT approach, you can go ahead and get your questions answered.
Sir,
Yes, go ahead.
sir, what is the difference between optimal and optimum? Or minimal or minimum?
Minimum, where the cost is minimum and where the risk is also minimum.
No, we use this term now in you said combination of different funds that have minimal cost and minimum risk.
Hmm.
So what's the difference between minimum and minimal and
Technically,
optimal
technically
and
both are same. Minimal and minimum both are same.
okay,
So
okay,
either you
thank you.
can say minimal or you can use minimal. In other words, less.
Okay, sir, thank you so much.
Okay. So that is called optimal capital structure, and that is what cost and risk approach aspires to achieve. It aspires to achieve optimal capital structure. Minimum risk, minimum cost. Whereas EBIT, it's totally opposite. It aspires to achieve higher EPS to convince the shareholders. So there the focal point is shareholders. But in cost and risk approach, this is purely from the viewpoint of company. So we will meet in the next class. Take care. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.